So what we're going to end up doing, right, is I'm going to good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on exit lifestyle and being able to maximize your financial health and happiness as a business owner. Today, I'm Christopher Klepp with Strategic Financial Group. I'm joined here by Greg Maddox with Cultivate Advisors. So, Greg, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and where you come from.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Excited to be here actually to talk about the exit planning and how you bring that into the present with the kind of planning you guys do. At Greg Maddox with Cultivate Advisors, we are a group of business owners who've come together as business coaches. And we're really known for running both growth and exit accelerators for 7- and 8-figure business owners. We have clients all across North America. At Cultivate, we've all owned our own business for at least 10 years in the past. So that's the common DNA thread throughout our advisors. I used to own a mortgage company, a financial services company, saw the ups and downs of the 08-09 market, and was doing that for several years, almost 20, before I joined Cultivate a few years ago.
Great. Excellent. And yeah, so I've been in the financial services business for now a little bit over 20 years. I've worked with hundreds of business owners over the years, helping them in various areas of their financial needs. I am a business owner myself. The same people that I'm generally talking to, I'm going along that same path as they are, trying to balance everything that I have going on in my life, and I value my time and that of others as the highest worth. And many of my clients are busy, on the go type of people. They know they need to get this taken care of, but they need it distilled down in the best way possible so that they can make action. They can take action on what needs to be done and not spend too much time ruminating on the problems. They want solutions, not just a lot of conversation that goes nowhere. So obviously, what I get, a lot is, and people ask me is why, people may think it's a little odd that, hey, what's a financial advisor and a business advisor talking to, sort of to the same clientele, and how is it that you guys work together? So maybe you would like to address that, why we've teamed up in the past, and how we can help some of the problems that we see out there.
Yeah, I always say exit planning is a team sport. And the biggest disservice that we, meaning the financial services industry in particular, of which I still feel I'm a part of from my history, that we did to the business owner community, is that we made them believe that exit planning was all about the transaction at the end. It's about getting you and your money out of your business at some point in the future. And the truth is, it's about getting what you want out of your business starting right now. And it takes a team to do that. And so we'll touch on a little bit more of this, but we definitely help the same type of clients. I work in collaboration with folks like you all the time so that we can get accelerated results. We actually need one to get the other. The business is the largest asset for the vast majority of our clients. All of their income is usually tied to the business. The vast majority of their wealth is usually tied up inside of that business. And it's the business that drives the ability for them to create financial freedom or personal freedom. So we need collaborating experts. And when experts who not only are deep dive experts in their core area, but who also have an understanding on how these different areas, business freedom, financial freedom, personal freedom, interlock and interplay with each other across the lives of our business owner clients, that's when we get accelerated results, when these plans are actually connected and not sitting in their own silos. So I think that's really what, that's why we were connected, earlier this year, because we have that same worldview. And that's why I think, we decided to have this conversation and share it with, both of our networks.
Yeah, I think it's important that really anybody that's planning for their financial future, but especially with business owners, that you have this team, collaborating team atmosphere working for you, because you're particularly if you're a business owner, you have a lot of different professionals that are working in your interest. And what you want to make sure is that they're all pushing in the same direction and not going off each in their own direction, and making sure that it's not, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. So, Greg, you've been working as a business, obviously you were a business owner for a long time. You've been working with Cultivate. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that you see as the problems that you come across a lot when you're dealing with business owners.
Sure. And it just for some context, at Cultivate, we currently serve somewhere north of 700 businesses and their owners across North America, a wide variety of sizes. My largest personal client I've ever had was about $80 million a year in revenue, and at their height, about 20% of net income. So, and these three problems that come off that I'm going to think about here off the top of my head, it doesn't really matter the size of the business or how much personal financial success somebody has from their business. We've seen this across the spectrum. So the top one is that, most of the owners that we're dealing with are very involved in every key decision and every key relationship. And, while they might feel that this is rewarding in the beginning, especially when they're launching and getting the business up and running, eventually they grow tired of being chained to their business. So what we see is that more often than not, if they're honest with themselves, they really own a job and not a business. And so if they stop working, by and large, a lot of what happens inside their business comes to a screeching halt. Tied directly to that and to what you guys do, we also find that, because the business is their single largest asset, and for most business owners, arguably it's their best asset. The problem is that they make it their only kind of significant asset, and they keep all their financial eggs in that one basket. Most owners haven't been thinking about building an asset, though. They've been building income, and rightly so. When they're first getting something off the ground and then growing it, we kind of get stuck in that, where we're chasing another dollar of revenue, chasing another dollar of profit. But if they were to stop, for a lot of people, their income would stop. And the wealth that they had built up to that point often comes crashing down around them as well. And the third thing that I see across the board, regardless of size of business, is that in pursuit of turning your business, into, an asset that runs without you, and trying to deal with, having all your financial eggs in one basket, that oftentimes we're over-sacrificing. And it's okay, we feel, to spend the vast majority of our time and energy and mental focus in business pursuits. And in doing so, we end up over-sacrificing on the family front. Oftentimes that has negative health impacts on us. We think that free time is a luxury for when I hit major milestones in the future. But that's not what successful people do. But that's wrong, because burning the candle on both ends only works for so long. Eventually, we all will hit a wall. We can white knuckle it for usually extended periods of time, but at some point, everything's going to suffer. Our work will suffer, health, relationships, and if we're not careful, everything could come burning down around us. And so those are the three main things that I see, is that they really own a job, not a business. All the financial eggs tied to that one basket of their business, and they're over-sacrificing in the pursuit of solving those other two problems. And then they end up compounding on top of each other, unless they're kind of shown a different path to deal with it. How about you guys? Because we are seeing this, like we're coming to the same coin from different sides of it, I think, with the way that we work with our clients. So I'm curious what your perspective is on where you guys have seen the commonalities of challenges across business owner clients.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously there's some similarities between what you see and some differences. I think the biggest concern that I see for our business owner clients is when we start talking with them is that there's no plan to exit the business, right? So everybody is going to leave their business either voluntarily or involuntarily, right? You can't work at this forever, and so you need to have a plan in place so that when you leave the business, either of your own volition or not, that it is done in an orderly, seamless fashion that maximizes value as you get away from it, and gets you the outcome that you want at the end of this. In addition, you need to be prepared so that if life happens, and you leave the business involuntarily, that is not going to cause havoc in your lives, the lives of your partners, your family members, your loved ones, all that. You want to make sure that that's taken care of, because failing to plan, is really planning to fail with that. And you can't snap your finger and create an exit plan overnight. That is something that if you want it done and done well, that it takes years, and some of the best ones I've seen have taken decades to actually enact. Right. And so this also brings us to the fact that there's no real understanding of the value of their company. Most people are using country club valuations when they're trying to figure that out. I think the number that we saw is that 78% of business owners, right, plan to sell their business, and that's going to fund somewhere between 60 and 100% of their income needs, right? So, but how are you going to do that when you don't know what the value of the business? Just because my financial plan, just because Mary down the street sold her financial planning business for $5 million, and I think she has about the same size of business as mine, does not make mine worth $5 million, because there's a lot of KPIs, there's a lot of things underneath the hood that could change the valuation of that dramatically. And if you don't at least have a number that's, if this is going to be your largest asset and it's going to fund most of your income at retirement, whenever you decide to leave, you need to have a real number and not just go, okay, well, I need 20 million to retire. My business now is mentally worth $20 million, and that can't happen. Right. And then I think the exact same thing that you said, right, is that, they start over sacrificing, their family, their health, their free time. They end up burning the candle on both ends because they don't have a direction, right? Like if you're just pouring out all of this energy, and listen, I don't know a business owner that doesn't have a lot of energy and towards what they're doing. But if you just sort of spray it out there without a defined direction, then then it's a lot of wasted energy, right? And that's both from your business side, right? A lot of business initiatives that take time, effort, and money that go nowhere. And we see the same thing from us, is that they're putting a lot of effort into things that may not be the best path for them to reach whatever those long-term financial goals are for them as well. So those are the problems that we see. But we've talked about what these problems are. What does it look like in the perfect world for your clients? Well, what would make what would it look like if if you're able to solve for some of these problems and the other ones that they're dealing with?
Yeah, and we've seen this. Our clients are all over the map. They're all at different phases of solving these problems, and so, but I think they have the same end goal by and large. Number one, they would love to see a business that runs without them. In other words, can we turn my business into an asset that runs without me and gives me an abundance of time and money, and that it's on track to either scale, sell, or passively own whatever it is that I want on my terms? And so, that's the number one thing. If you want to just, rule of thumb, you want to know if you have real transferable value in your business, regardless of what the financial number might be. Yeah. Have you solved this? Can the business run without you for any extended period of time? If the answer is yes, likely that you do have a valuable business that is an asset that someone else will pay you for. If the answer is no, then there's work to do to get underneath the hood and start solving those problems. Number two, that, as you mentioned, Chris, like, we can't all work in our businesses forever. At some point, we're all going to leave. Hopefully it's on your terms and timeline. Statistics show us that 50% of the time it's not. This is why they're planning around death, disability, disagreements with partners, disruption like a COVID that happens at the wrong time. There's all these things in the world that we don't have control over. And so I think the second thing that people would love to have to mitigate that risk is to have multiple income streams outside of their business. So if we build the business correctly and it does give you, turn into an asset that gives you time and money, you can direct a portion of that time and money into assets that you can use to fund, pre-fund your retirement, even if you never sell your business, or to just invest in other resources that are separate from your business, so that you have more than one horse pulling the wagon at the end of the day, which gives you a lot more choice and control. It might give your spouse, if they're not in the business and not as, and they're perhaps more risk averse than you, if you have more liquidity separate from the business, that might give them more sleep at night money, which allows them to show up a little bit more authentically and energetically in your corner to help you show up at work and pull off big stuff. Because in the world of an entrepreneur, the lines are fuzzy gray at best between our business, our finances, and our personal, which leads to the third part there, that we're building a business in a way that we can still have a life that you would define as, amazing and full of meaning. That, we know that building a business is hard work, and it doesn't get easier as your business grows. You actually need to get stronger. And a key component to getting stronger is having some downtime that you actually find, rejuvenating. And that could mean that you finally have the time, energy, and money to invest in the people, the causes, or the experiences that you care about on your terms. So I think, generally speaking, regardless of where somebody is in their journey, ultimately they'd all like to get to some version of this end game. The business runs without them. They got multiple streams of income that are separate from the business, and they have a personal life that they think is awesome, and that their friends and family would agree that they're all on the same page. How about you, Chris? Where do you guys see kind of that end game coming? I imagine that there's a lot of complementary angles here, but I'm sure you guys have some different approaches.
Yeah, ideally, when working, ideally the business owner gets to a point of a few things, right? One is that they're prepared to leave their business successfully in the best possible terms. Let's be honest, you've been a business, as a fellow business owner, is that, I don't know that I ever want to stop doing what I'm doing, but I would like the idea of making work optional. And the business owner's idea with that's sort of where it is. It's not that they intend to leave. Some of them do, some of them don't, but a lot of them, they just want to be able to say, well, this runs on their own. I want to know that if I want to step away, if something changes in the health of my loved ones, if my priorities shift in the future, I will be able to walk away from what I'm doing and follow this new passion or take care of my loved one.
Choice and control, fit,
right?
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And so a documented exit and succession plan prepares you for that day, right? You want to make, you want to have, and the thing is that, particularly when you're dealing with younger business owners, right? They think, okay, well, I'm 40, right? Like I got, if they're running this as an income producer, they're like, well, I have a couple decades before I have to think about retiring. And the fact of the matter is that good exit planning actually is good business planning, right? Is that, you're trying to drive revenue, you're trying to grow you're trying to grow your top line, and more importantly, your bottom line. And all of those things are, if you're doing that and gives you more money while you're living, that's also going to grow it later. And if you're thinking about how to make your business more valuable to sell, you're also going to make it more valuable while you're alive, right? And so then the second thing is a business owner would know what their business is worth, right? They can effectively plan to grow what they need. So if, for example, you have a business owner that needs $10 million, their business is worth $2 million today. Well, great. Now that you know that it's actually worth $2 million, now you can figure out whether or not you can grow that business reasonably to 10 million, if it's going to make more sense for you to try and grow the business a little bit, but then also figure out other ways to save money outside of that business. Maybe there's no way to get it to 10 million eventually, right? So at least have that number there so that you can make reasonable planning estimation. I mean, if you talk to someone about, like, how much money do you want to retire, they often can tell you, relatively, well, I'd like to, have as much money as I'm making today. That'd be perfectly fine. Well, we can plan around that, but but going, well, I'm going to go sell my business for X when we have no idea what it's worth is not. So a good answer to that is going to be knowing what your business is worth to make good decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being able to have these things in place, right? Having your succession plan, knowing what your business is worth, having a good financial plan in place, right? It does allow them to focus more on the other things that are important for them outside of the business, right? As as someone who is a spouse, a parent, a business owner, right? Like my health and my family come before my business. My business drives what I can do for it, but I know like my financial future is set so that if anything, I can spend more time with my kids. I mean, we were just talking about before I came on. Daycare is shut down for 2 weeks because one of the kids in my son's class had COVID. So that means my wife and I now are pitching in to go 2 weeks with no daycare and take care of them. And fortunately, I've structured a business that allows me to do that. And you can do that, because I'm in a good place from a business perspective, and also if you're a good place, from a financial perspective, it allows you to invest in those other things that are important to you, not just focus on trying to get through the grind to try and create more, even if sometimes that effort is wasted.
Yeah, totally.
But obviously, we've talked about what the problems are. We've talked about, what it looks like more in a more perfect world. Why do business owners have such trouble getting the help they need to achieve that perfect world?
Yeah, it's probably a combination of things. A little bit of, you don't know what you don't know. And also, I think that uh, a lot of the advice that business owners get is siloed. They work with a lot of deep dive experts in a variety of disciplines. And those are needed. But what's also needed is for somebody who can also, or teams of people who understand how those pieces work together synergistically. So if you think about all the different people in the ecosystem of a business owner's world that they rely on for some form of advice over time, some more on a faster, more regular rhythm than others, but you have a variety of business advisors or coaches, a wealth manager, CPA, tax and estate planning attorneys, just to name a few, and then a whole variety of subject matter experts that go deeper on niche subjects as it pertains to their world. So, a couple things here. What do these labels even mean? For somebody, business coach means one thing, and for somebody else who's delivering those services, it means something totally different. Not all wealth managers are created equal. Not all CPAs are created equal. There's different aspects of the job of the professional area that pertains specifically to successful and fast-growing business owners, and these people are not always talking to each other and putting an integrated plan together. So, the business is the golden goose that's laying all the eggs, that funds literally everything else, including giving the owner time to do stuff separate from the business. So if we get it wrong in the business, it's darn near impossible to get it right personally or financially. And so I think a lot of times, Chris, it's just that siloed advice just doesn't see how the other pieces of the puzzle connect. The business owner themselves are so busy wearing multiple hats and spinning lots of plates, regardless of how many commas of revenue or personal income that they have, that sometimes it's just super tough for them to even have the ability to figure out how to coordinate that on their own. And it's one of the things that, really drew me to your business model and how you guys approach it. And so, I'll pass it back over to you there. It's a great, transition point, but I think it's the siloed approach. The owners just don't know what they don't know. And absent somebody else coming in with a different model that allows them to work smarter instead of harder, they're going to keep going down the path that they've always gone. And so they're always going to have those blinders on. And I think that's where you guys come in and help take those blinders off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the problem I think that I see in my world is that the majority of people out there that need retirement planning, right, are are high income professionals. Business owners make up a smaller portion of that. Your doctors, your lawyers, your business executives, right, and they're working on a W-2 income. They have benefits at work, things like that. And so the type of planning that makes sense for those type of people is different than what you see for business owners. You want to be able to help them maximize what they can do as a business owner, right? It's focused on the larger population, which is not your business owners. And the other thing, and if you're dealing with some of these larger companies, right, your Schwabs, your Merrill Lynch's, stuff like that, your advisor might be taking on 300, 400, 500 accounts that they're trying to work with, and they're giving you sort of that one size fits all solution for you, versus a practice like mine, where I'm capped out at 125 business owners for financial planning, and I want to be able to know each and every one of them on a deep level, right? And so it's a big difference between your large scale financial planning and what you can get from a smaller company, and focusing on on more specialized planning for business owners, right? The other problem is that that a lot of financial planners are only focused on retirees or near retirees. And a lot of the business owners I know are in their 40s, right? They don't typically have a lot of money to invest, so they're often overlooked when there's a lot of real planning that can make a huge impact on their lives, that is overlooked by conventional financial planning. And if they do get the financial planning, it's typically not of the highest level, right? And again, we talk about the silo approach. There's a lack of integrated communications. I can't tell you how many attorneys and CPAs, typically when I talk with business owners, I start getting introduced to them first so we can work together as a team. And how many of them say it's so rare to actually talk to the financial planner in trying to create this. And it doesn't make sense, because then you get a lot of micro advice from many different advisors versus a true team-based approach where I, as their financial planner, sitting side by side with them, trying to create the best solution and work with their other professionals to make sure that we have it. And then the other problem is that a lot of business owners, they want to put every single penny back into the business. It's their best asset, right? But it shouldn't be your only asset, because the thing is, even if it is your best asset and ends up being your best asset, it becomes a single fail point. And anytime that you have a system that has a single fail point, there is a huge increase in risk for you versus having some sort of diversification. Now, I'm not going to say that we're going to pull every penny possible out of there. We need to strike that. We need to strike that better balance for them, right?
Right.
So if these things, these conventional wisdom doesn't work, then what's a better way than these, some of these conventional wisdom things, the problem that we see in our business? What's a better way for them to get that help they need?
In 2 words, an integrated approach. For example, I come at it from an exit planning, albeit as great business strategy standpoint. I do have clients who are selling. Had 4 clients sell this year, and 1 that's getting ready to sell. But the vast majority of my clients are not looking to sell anytime soon, but they are looking to create the options for themselves in the future. So I've created an accelerator. I call it the Exit Lifestyle Accelerator. And there's a process that goes around that. And when I think about, when I was developing this a couple of years ago, and just thinking about in general, like, why did I get in business? Why do my clients get in business? Because you can make a lot of money. You could do great work. You can make an impact working for somebody else. And I bet that most entrepreneurs, did that before they went out on their own. That gave them the confidence to strike out. But why is it that they decided to go out on their own and take that risk? And if I had to sum it up to one word, I'd say it was freedom. That they were looking to create freedom in their life, freedom and control. And so that's why I created a framework that incorporates what I feel the 3 freedoms are in the life of an entrepreneur. There's business freedom, financial freedom, and personal freedom. And as we talked about earlier, there's a fuzzy gray line at best that goes in between these things for entrepreneurs. There is a lot of crossover and bleed from one into the other. So business freedom is about creating that asset that somebody else would find valuable enough that they could write you a check for at some point in the future if that's what you wanted. But along the way, it's valuable because it gives you an abundance of time and money. And that's at the core of what we do at Cultivate Advisors, get underneath the hood there and help you do that with a combination of group training and one-on-one help on execution, implementation, and working with your key employees as needed. As we talked about, it is the goose that's laying the golden egg. So we got to get it right inside the business in order to be able to have the resources for every other area of our life as entrepreneurs. So that goes into financial freedom. Financial freedom is ultimately, how can I replace the income that I get from my business when at some point in the future I no longer have this business. As you mentioned earlier, Chris, we're all going to leave it in some way or form at some point. So why not proactively start, recreating income streams and assets separate from your business along the way before you need them? And there's a balancing act there between what you need to put back into the business to grow and scale. But if you're past survival mode and you have a healthy business with some healthy cash flow, you have some choices as an owner on how can I direct a portion of my time, a portion of my money into other resources separate from my business, so that I have more choice and control, more options later, and the ability to deal with curveballs thrown at me while I'm growing this business, like a small curveball that you just mentioned of your kid being having daycare shut down for a couple of weeks unexpectedly. So financial freedom is a big part of it. We do a lot of work around that and coordinating with folks like you, Chris. And that ultimately ties into personal freedom. That if we're going to do this and build something that's of value for you, your employees, your clients, your family, it's going to take a lot of energy to do that, to pull that off. And we can't just white knuckle and hashtag grind that forever and ever, like we talked about earlier. So inside of personal freedom, it's about actually having some bumpers around the way that you're choosing to build your business, so that there's teammates and other resources coming in to take stuff off of your plate that gives you the time to move up a rung or two, to be working more on the business than in it, which, hint, hint, makes it a way more valuable business for you while you own it and for somebody else to potentially buy it from you in the future. But it also allows you to have a life while you're doing this. And so we introduce a concept of free days to our clients, and we tell them that they should have a minimum of 104 free days a year. That's where you're unplugged from doing anything work related, being attached to the work electronically or otherwise. You can't respond to text, phone calls, emails. And most of our clients look at me like I'm crazy when I give them that number. But the truth is, it's just the weekends, 52 weeks times 2 days. So as a successful business owner, if we can at least aspire to not work evenings and weekends, then we know that that's a problem that we need to fix. Also, that's not necessarily a problem somebody else would want to buy off of you later for any meaningful amount of money. So connecting the dots between that, so that you can recharge yourself, show up to be more, do more, make a bigger impact, but also to have a life separate from your business. These are all the things around business, financial, and personal that kill exit deals later. So we know that they're coming, and we've just decided to create a program that proactively deals with them along the way, giving you way more choice and control, a lot more options, in case life throws a curveball at you. And we still use the business value. We reverse engineer. We don't know what the business value is. We reverse engineer what you need to net walk away with at some point in the future to make work optional on your timeline. We use that to plot a strategic roadmap that gives you both revenue, profit, value numbers, and other KPIs by year, so that you can hit your freedom number the next 3-5 years, or whatever time frame makes sense for you, that you can then make work optional. A lot of my clients are defining that as exiting operationally. Still own the business, not giving up ownership, giving up the lion's share of the day-to-day and collecting profit from it while other people run it. And so, as I mentioned, we've combined all of that, but the big thing is that we integrate those 3 areas, and we collaborate with the other professionals like you, like the proper tax and estate planning attorneys, like the proper CPAs, whoever else is on the owner's team, so we're all on the same page, literally, and rowing the boat in the same direction. And then we find when we do that, we get there, we get bigger, stronger, faster, for the business owner, hitting targets that they thought they couldn't hit, perhaps in 10 or 20 years. They see a roadmap to do it in 5 to 10 years or less. And it's just the collaboration and integration of that. How about you guys, Chris? When you're working with the business owners, we know all the conventional wisdom, the way the typical financial planning industry is really set up for the mass affluent, which are W-2 employees out there. But you guys are focused very much on the same niche we are, of successful business owners. So how have you guys figured out how to bridge the gap to be able to serve them, especially while they're still growing into a spot where the traditional financial planners would even care about them on their radar.
Yeah, great question. I mean, so what we do here, what we do is we want to be able to make it build a path, build an easy path to help them get toward, to wealth, right? True wealth is, sort of being able to make all those decisions on your own terms and not having to deal with others as much on that. You can take or leave things as you see fit. And the way that we do that is we create a one-page financial action plan for our client, right? So most of our business owners are used to making decisions on a high level. They should not be getting down too much into the weeds with their business as well, right? And we want to make that as easy for our business owner clients as well. So we have our financial planning software, as we call it, it's our 52-page technical appendix to our one-page plan. Most of my clients don't want to get past that one-page plan, but if they want to get deep into the weeds, we will. But we want to give them simple, actionable information to work on, right? Most of the reason, a lot of times we talk with clients that have pushed this off because this is not the fun part of what they want to do. They want to run their business. They want to spend time with their kids. They want to spend time with their spouse, whatever sparks joy for them, right? And we want to make this as simple and easy of a process as possible. By doing that, we're also going to do some coordination with their other advisors, get that team-based approach. A lot of times I have clients where I'm emailing back and forth with their CPA, their attorneys, to get stuff done on their behalf, because they don't need to spend their time on it. I mean, they only have so many minutes in a day, and it's best doing other things, just knowing that things are taken care of and everybody's sort of pushing through that. And that thing, I think, is a big change, because a lot of times if they've had financial planners or financial advisors in the past, people have put themselves out as financial advisors. If there was a tax question, they said, well, just go ask your CPA and they'll take care of it. Whereas I'm more of, well, okay, so let me ask your CPA what we need. I'm going to copy you on the email, and then we're going to figure out this answer based on the information that they give us. And it makes it a lot easier for the clients, right? And so then running their financial life is no longer a tedious job, right? They love running their businesses. A lot of times the personal financial stuff sort of goes by the wayside. They figure they can always out earn any financial problems that come along the way. That's not always the case. But we want to make sure that it is as easy as possible, and that also a lot of times the non-entrepreneurial spouse feels a little bit more comfortable knowing that while one spouse is out trying to get rich, we're also working to make sure that they never go broke, right? Which is often the concern.
Yeah, offense and defense. The other thing that I love about your approach is that because you guys take the leadership role there of saying, hey, listen, we have a tax issue. Let me just talk with your CPA and copy you in on it. That means that ball actually gets moved downfield in a much more timely manner to an end result for decision making than if you likely just left it on the 1,000,001 things that are already on the to-do list of your business owner client, right? So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we do it a little bit different. A lot of financial advisors meet one time per year. That's just not enough for a business owner with what we do. We do 3 smaller meetings during the year, so that they're small, just little small actionable items that they can do over 120 days, and we can check in on the progress. And then if it didn't get done in those 120 days, we have the next 120 days to figure it out, as opposed to meeting again 365 days later and still finding out.
What is it that we talked about a year ago? I don't remember.
Right. Right, and that's something else. We break it into smaller, more digestible chunks for them, as opposed to trying to have that 1 3-hour meeting every year that that sort of has the clients drinking from a fire hose, and we don't want to do that. But we've talked about what we see with business owner clients. We've talked about what we can do for them. But I think, what's equally important is why you do what you do. So, so tell me a little bit, dig a little bit deeper for me, would you, if you could, about why it is that you're working with Cultivate Advisors, why you developed Exit Lifestyle Accelerator.
Yeah, very much interrelated. So, if you ask me, why we do what we do, I tell you that at Cultivate, we've got a vision for a world that's made better by entrepreneurs. And if you think about it, the stuff that really makes you successful as an entrepreneur and in life are probably the entrepreneurial skill sets and mindsets that you've developed along the way, on creative problem solving, on effective communication, on how to align groups of people together to a common goal to get results, on how to see value where no one else sees it and create a path to get you from here to there, as opposed to the technical expertise in whatever your industry or business is, right? And so we believe that those skill sets and mindsets, those entrepreneurial ones, are universally applicable across all facets of your life. And so entrepreneurs are uniquely positioned to make massive impacts on starting with their family and their communities. And therefore that can have a ripple effect out into the world if we could just help them capture and share, their quote unquote secret sauce outside of the core business technical secret sauce, and share that across their families, across their communities. They could create a ripple effect where you turn people into creators who are looking to just create value in the world. Doesn't mean entrepreneur, doesn't mean I need to start a business. These same things could work if I want to be a school teacher, if I want to be a stay-at-home dad, if I want to be a pastor, right? All this stuff is applicable. And that ripple effect, we believe, could lead to this wave of, innovation, leadership, creative problem solving that could literally, make a huge positive impact in the world. And, we think that entrepreneurs are at the epicenter of driving that kind of positive change. And so at Cultivate Advisors, that's really what we're all about. And when it comes to the individual business owner and their personal world, the Exit Lifestyle Accelerator is meant to help them get there faster, create a plan that integrates all those different 3 freedoms with their key advisors so that they feel very confident, and the rest of their family members, spouse, et cetera, also feel very confident where they are now, where they're going, and that if life throws them some curveballs, they're going to be okay. But we could actually have this amazing thing happen in a few years if we all come together and help work on it. How about you guys, Chris? What's your big why?
Yeah. So, it's important to me that so I started in this business, 20 years ago. So I've been working working for myself, since I was 25. Right. And I came up in the business and more on the insurance side of things and the financial planning when I originally came in the business, and didn't run my business or my financial life the right way. Right. I was just a very good salesperson, and that actually led to a lot of unhappiness. I had money, but not happiness. And then a couple of bad things happened with the business. And then I had neither money nor happiness. And so that was a tough time for me. And so when I built myself back up and came through this, I realized that I wanted to have deeper, more meaningful relationships with my clients, that money was not the end all be all, that, and that there's a lot of things that when you're running a business and you're in a certain sort of mindset, that a lot of things that are important go by the wayside, unless you have someone that's there willing to reach out and sort of take the initiative on helping you through those things. And I think that's the important part for me, is that, most of my clients are really what I've done, whether, it's being the business owner, they're a parent, they're a spouse, they're trying to navigate through, all the complexities that is modern life that maybe weren't there 20 or 30 years ago. So there's just a lot of different ways that life is difficult. I mean, I know as a married father of 3 and a business owner, I don't have a ton of free time to do anything other than to try and be the best parent, best spouse, and best business owner that I can be. And so I need professionals to be able to help me out in that as well. And that's where I really see the value is if I can help somebody in their life be better, whatever it is that they want to be, then I think there's a lot of value. And for me, that's the greatest. People always think of financial advisors as being just someone who handles their money. Right. I think of someone that is really uniquely positioned in helping them be the best version of themselves and the happiest version of themselves that they can be. And that's really what gets me up in the morning is being able to help all these other people that have their hair on fire and living in this crazy world get the most out of it. And I love your why and what it is that you do. Because could you possibly provide me a story, like an example of someone that you've been able to help, and how everything that we've been talking about here actually was put into action for a client?
Sure. I'll give you a couple just really quick. I know we don't have that much time. So um, even though, my tagline is that, you can live your ultimate exit lifestyle, even if you never sell, I do have some clients that are selling. So this year so far, have helped clients sell 4 businesses. I got one more that's finalizing right now. Um, but the vast majority of my clients are really, strategically on a, scaling towards an eventual exit, which could be operational, meaning they don't want to give up ownership. So one of my clients that's on that path, when I started with them about 18 months ago, they're low 7-figure revenue with about 400K in profits. So it was a small business with some good margins. It was a husband and wife with a couple employees, so 4 people total in the business. And they basically sell and customize specialty manufacturing equipment. The husband was a chief engineer, so he's wearing all the hats, involved in selling, proposal creation, engineering design work, installation, maintenance, you name it. And they're growing like a weed. So him wearing all those hats is unsustainable. So what we did is we helped them create systems and processes, and as well as training up key employees. So generally speaking, we have to slow the owner down to get the secret sauce out of their head. What can we document and hand off to somebody else based on where we are today? Right? It's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be where we're going to be 6 months or a year from now. But just based on where we are today, what could we offload? And so we help them do that. Now, it might only be 60 or 70 or maybe 80% of what the owner would do if they just held on to it themselves, which is why most of them are control freaks and don't let go. But that ends up stunting their growth and making their day-to-day life, horrible, because they're working around the clock, literally. But it's still a huge gain, even at 60, 70, or 80% of what the owner is able to output. And so we've also helped them develop some onboarding, recruiting, and training so that the 2 key employees that they have could actually replace themselves and move up to handle more of the stuff that we're offloading from the owners. So now we're building teams. They financially doubled in about 18 months. We financially doubled their value, more than doubled their revenue, doubled their profit. And also because of our work, they are working with their wealth manager and adding some significant 6 figures a year into their overall, retirement planning strategy. They know we're growing the value of this business, but they know that they're not necessarily wanting to sell it and get a big lump sum of money in the next few years. So they're aggressively also beefing up their liquidity and other resources separate from the business so that they feel more confident taking a step back, accepting distributions from the business, and not feeling like they have to be micromanaging the business to make sure that they get paid, because they have some other resources, and we're building the business in a way to take that risk off the table for them. So by the time we get there. On the why front, I'll add one other thing really quickly. I've got a client that's a family business. They own several different businesses. They unlike most family businesses, or the stereotype for most family businesses, they are super functional in how they interact. And so their real vision is that they want to become a multi-generational business family instead of being a family business. And that means getting those entrepreneurial skill sets and mindsets out of their heads. And so I've taken them through a process to start getting that documented and putting systems in place. We're actually interacting with there's advanced tax and estate planning attorneys who know how to take that secret sauce, bake it into their, we'll just use the term estate planning documents. So in addition to the asset protection, tax reduction, wealth transfer, exit planning benefits of an integrated estate plan, they can also set up the value-based rules of the road on how a rising tide lifts all boats across their family, across multiple businesses in the future, empowering everybody to be able to go and build upon mom and dad's success and not rely upon it. And so so that just kind of touches the I think the main areas of where we help. And it all starts with that exit lifestyle accelerator program that lays the foundation, and then we kind of grow from there. And there's a ton of other examples like this with over 700 clients, but I know we only have limited time today, and I know that you've got a ton of awesome success stories as well. And so I want to hear a little bit about yours and how you guys have been able to really make a big difference in some clients' lives, and how that's kind of very typical of the work you do.
Yeah, I think so one that sort of stands out to me, so I was recently asked to write a chapter for a book So my focus is on how I help business owners, right? And so it's 30 of the top financial advisors from across the country that have been asked to write a chapter each about the book, about different segments and areas that we all specialize in helping in, for me as the business owner. And for the purpose of our conversation, names changed to protect the innocent, right? So Mary, when I met her, a couple years ago now, she had, when we first sat down, she had a lot of things that were going on, right? So she had moved from corporate America a few years ago, had been running a business. The business had been growing. She loved running a business. Like, it was a passion for her. She loved her employees. But the thing is, the business wasn't running as smoothly necessarily as it needed to be. And then she also had some other, she also had some also personal financial concerns, right? She was in the weeds with running a highly technical business and loved it. But she probably could have used some help to figure out some other pieces, right? She had her, her employees, which were valuable to her. Her parents were concerned for her. Dad had, worked for the steel industry. He had lost his pension, so she was helping out with them. She was very values-based. She was concerned, about her investments being in alignment with those values. There's just a lot of things for her to do in addition to trying to run a company.
Right.
And so her company it's all female employees, and so that's very important to her. And one of the things that we recognized was that she needed to figure out how to run the business a little bit more smoothly. It had gotten to the point now where an outsourced CFO made sense. Her request was that it's going to be a female. So that was actually one of the first calls, was introducing her to a couple of CFOs, including a female CFO. And having been around the business, just having a female CFO is few and far between. But having a deep bench of professionals that I can bring in when they need made sense. I got introduced to her attorney and her accountant and her mentor, and I learned a lot about who she was, what's important to her. We started putting in, several different key pieces to it. We put in a succession plan for her. We put in appropriate amounts of insurance. We put in the appropriate retirement plan for her employees. We got her money moved over into a values-based portfolio that was in alignment with her causes. We've made sure that at the end of the day that there's going to be money left over, not only for her important family members, but also for the causes that she believes in. So her quote to me, right, was that it was, "I'm tired of feeling like I'm in an ocean with huge waves all around me and no one to help me through the storm," right? That's how she felt. She sort of felt the drift. And now she says it feels like we've put up a bunch of lighthouses for her to be able to guide her through the storm. And she feels like everything that she has going is going in the right direction. And what she can do now is focus more fully on running a business, which, quite honestly, over the last year and a half, she's in an industry that's taken some hits during, from COVID, but she came out on the other side of this even stronger through the help of teamwork. Her portfolio is done fine, and so she feels like she's on the right path and feels very, very good. And for me, it's obviously there's a lot of technical pieces. Obviously, we're running out of time. I won't dig too deeply in them. But there's a lot of technical things that we could get into about what we did, but at the end of the day, she's more engaged and happier than when we started working, and she feels more secure and less lost. And that's the biggest thing for me. That's the real victory.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's important to me. So obviously we're coming up to our hour. I'm a big stickler. I always like trying to keep things on time. So Greg, why don't you tell our attendees here what our offer to them is here today as part of being an attendee for the webinar, and then
Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest thing, given the fact that the business is the goose that's laying the golden egg, Chris and his company have graciously offered to provide every attendee a complimentary valuation of their business. And this is something that he'll explain what you need to do to grab that, but it'll give you at least a basis of what the business is worth today. Once that's done and available, then Chris and I will carve out an hour to meet with you and give you some context around that value, help you understand, well, is that value enough to get you to your freedom point? If it's not, we'll help you map out a high-level roadmap over the next 2 to 10 years that shows you exactly what you need to hit as a business owner over those years as far as revenue, profit, value numbers each year, what the different metrics might be for you, so that you can actually hit your freedom number. And you'll be able to take that after that hour with us, and you'll be able to run with that. We'll give you the information, we'll give you the reports that we generate, and you could go and run with your existing team of advisors. You could, if you have a management team or leadership team inside the business, and you should be able to execute on that. Some of you might want our help on executing, and if that's the case, you can bring that up during that conversation, and we could talk about that.
Yeah, so what everybody that all of our registrants are going to get after this call is an email sent out to you with a link. And so if you have some interest in following up and getting that complimentary valuation, just sign up for a quick time. We'll schedule just a real quick phone call to go over what we need to be able to provide that valuation for you, and then we'll schedule that 1 hour of complimentary time with both Greg and myself to review that and how that can fit into helping you plan for your financial future. And that'll be complimentary, and I think it'll be a great value. And even if you say, you don't want anything outside of, of that hour of our time, you will walk away from that with the report, with your valuation, with some actionable information to help you grow your business and set your financial life a little bit straighter. And if you think then it makes sense to work with us, then we can talk about that as well. So Greg, so we just hit 1 o'clock. So so that is right on time. So I appreciate all of our attendees coming today. We will follow up with all of you, and if there's anything else that we can do for you, please let us know. All right, Greg, you have a wonderful day.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great week.
All right, bye-bye.